guys, welcome to Tuesday's first session of Women in Mining Industry Chats on Facebook Live. Thank you for those who are joining us today and those who will be watching this a little bit later. My name is Emily. I work in the projects office at the Guild, at Murdoch Guild. And today we have some special guests on campus, some women who work as professionals in the mining industry. And today's event is being held for Murdoch Guild students and Murdoch University students and students anywhere who want to channel into this chat session. And it's for us to and for you to engage with female mining professionals who are currently employed in the mining sector, and any questions that you might want to ask them if you're interested in studying mining, or you're interested in studying engineering, or want to get into the mining industry and you're a woman or have questions for these lovely ladies. They're here to answer some questions for you, and we have some questions that we are going to ask them, and we hope you enjoy the session today. So today we have lovely Jade Singleton, and we also have Jasmine Gale here. Both of these ladies live and work in Perth, and we're going to go through some questions now. So how about we start with Jade, and how about you introduce yourself and explain your current role?
Sure. So hi everyone. So I'm Jade, as I was introduced. My role is called Business Planner for Worsley at South 32. And so I guess the best way of explaining a business planner is that I really look at the life of the operation of a mine, or for us it's the mine and a refinery and a port. We have 3 sites within our operation, and it's pulling in information from all the different parts. So the planning side of things, supply and contracts, marketing, the refinery, closure things, projects, studies, all sorts of things, and then pulling it all together and producing, I guess, a life operation plan. And that's on an annual basis. And then in between bits of that year, we also do different valuation work in terms of options studies, analysis, things like that. So it's very diverse and very, I get to interact with lots of different people across the business, so it's a really interesting role.
Fantastic. Oh, great. Thank you so much, Jade. And Jasmine.
Hi, I'm Jasmine. I've been a few different things in my career. I am currently a principal mine planner for closure, but I started off as a geologist, mining geologist in underground coal mining. Interesting place to start a career,
Yes.
especially as a female.
Yes.
I was the only person on site who was a female, who wasn't the administration person.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting. And from there I've moved into other sort of project roles for earth science type things, hydrology projects, other environmental type projects. I've worked as a resource geologist. I'm currently also handing over my CP responsibilities, so I'm a competent person for the company that I work for, so South 32 like Jade. So I sign off on resources on annual reports. But I have recently transitioned into mine closure planning, so that's always been a goal of mine. So I'm undergrad geology and geography, but I did all my postgrad work in hydrology, so I've always wanted to get into more of the environmental project management type work, and yeah, so I've been doing that for the last year.
Nice, great.
Yeah.
A new position. And so,
Position.
what is a principal mine closure planner? Did we discuss that?
Yes, so mine closure planning is every mining asset, right through from exploration to an operational asset, has to have a remediation plan. You know, you have to clean up the whole duck, basically. And that's legislated as well. So in mine closure planning, we work with doing that progressively. So working up projects that we can do over the life of the mine to progressively rehabilitate as we go. There's also a financial side to it as well, where we look at the cost of closure. That's something that you have to hold in sort of like bonds or security with the state government in Australia. So we look at how much these things will cost over the life of your mine.
Okay, great.
And then I feed it to people like Jade.
Jade.
Yeah.
And Jade and Jasmine, they both work at South 32 together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they've been former colleagues elsewhere. Is that correct, or just
No,
just
just
South
just
32?
South 32.
Okay. All right. So how about we discuss for our viewers today, what did you both study at university, and did you enjoy the university experience? Where did you study, and were you a part of any university clubs when you attended uni? And what is important what would you say is important for university life based on your experiences studying at uni?
So I studied mining engineering and commerce, so a double degree. I finished high school here in Perth and then drove east to Kalgoorlie and studied at WA School of Mines. So it was a pretty awesome experience. It was very different from what I'd known before. But the good thing in those days, there was no other place to study in the state to do mining engineering. So anyone who wanted to do it would move there. So we were all, we just became each other's family. So I guess the connectivity and the, just the lifestyle we had was so much fun. I lived on campus for the first 3 years, which also helped, I guess, in making those connections with people. And we could just walk to uni from there. And then the fourth year moved out with a friend. But I guess there weren't that many different clubs there. So we had the student social club, which pretty much everyone was a member of. And we just did so much fun things together because everyone was there mostly without family. So different trips and road trips to Esperance and all sorts of, we had Freakers Ball and all sorts of fun stuff. So I guess really just getting involved and making those networks and those connections is really pivotal, because even now, 20 years later, I'm still in contact with a lot of people I went to uni with.
Great.
Yeah.
We'll move over to Jasmine then. Jasmine, what did you study at university, and did you enjoy your university experience, and were you a part of any clubs?
Yeah, so like I said before, I did geography and geology as an undergrad. I studied at Auckland University.
Yeah.
I had to move away from home to go to university, so I didn't really get much of an opportunity to be in many clubs because I was supporting myself to stay alive, pay the rent, and buy ramen noodles. So
yes.
So I was working about 25 hours plus a week.
Okay.
But looking back on it, I think I would have liked to be in more clubs. I was a member of the student body. Because there's a lot of benefits that go along with that, discounts, etc. So yeah, that's right, coffee.
Yes.
So looking back, I would have really, it's a regret, I guess, not joining more clubs. But I did get along to other people's events that they had, social events that they were in clubs. So I sort of tagged along, which is great. So like Jade said, I'm still in contact with a lot of people I went to uni with. And then I had a break from uni, and I did travel and was fully intending to come back and do my honours year, but I got a job instead. So I worked for about 10 years and then finished off all of my postgrad extramurally. So I was completely disconnected for that. It was a different experience, that's for sure. A lot more difficult, maybe a pertinent topic since everyone's having to do everything online at the moment.
Yes.
So,
was that the geology?
No, that was hydrology.
Oh, hydrology. Oh, okay. And you.
So, groundwater.
Okay.
Etc.
Yep. And you were doing that in New Zealand?
No, I did that through Flinders University while I was working in class.
Nice. Okay. All right. So, an important question relevant to today's topic: what can women bring into the mining industry?
Good question. So I think I've seen, over the last 20 years, the industry's changed predominantly in all sorts of ways, but I guess there's so many more females in mining, particularly now, which is fantastic. Like Jasmine, I didn't work underground then, but there was just not many females around at all, particularly in professional roles. So that's been really good to see that shift, although it's slow, at least it's happening. And I think for me, when I don't just think about what females can bring, but what anybody of different, what different background, different educational experience, as well as different gender. And I think the thing is that the more diversity you can get around a table, the better solutions you're going to find to problems or issues or challenges. So, you're going to get such a different perspective when you get a real wide variety of people around within a team even. So to me, I think the biggest thing is just having diversity of thought to solve different things and think about, and work on different projects and things. That's the biggest benefit I see.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Diversity of thought, if you get the same people in, you're going to get different problems with the same solution. Yeah, that's right. So having that diversity of thought, it's great.
Yeah.
Because we've all got different backgrounds, right? So you bring your own sort of curveball to the table.
The most interesting thing I think for me too was I've recently, when I was studying or preparing for another kind of talk, I looked up and found that it was only in 1986 that females were legally allowed to work underground.
Yeah.
So it's like in my lifetime anyway, probably not yours, but but it was that's just phenomenal that it was actually illegal for females to work underground. So we've come a long way in that amount of time.
Yeah.
But I think we just have an expectation that we'll be able to fix it quicker, but we'll get there.
Yeah, surely. Thank you for that. That's great. So, what opportunities have you maybe both been exposed to that you thought that you would never be exposed to if you hadn't have worked in the mining industry?
I think I wouldn't have been exposed to such large-scale projects, large in size, but also large in longevity, especially working in geology type of things. We deal with stuff that, you're looking at exploring an area that won't be mined for 100 years, or now I'm looking at, progressive rehabilitation for areas that, we're going to go through the process in 30 years' time, because we still have to go through and mine there, but we're getting all our baseline studies and everything ready. So I think if I didn't work inside I'm sure other industries have this as well, but, just that temporal nature of, seeing projects right the way through, and then, just like really large equipment. So,
And underground.
Yes, and it probably wouldn't have been, 800 metres underground.
Underground, for sure.
Yeah. So,
And I think it's also, it's just the industry of resources is so pivotal and important to society. So, every single thing you can pretty much name, part of it comes from the mining industry of some kind. So it's very, it's part of our everyday life, and I think that's the benefit of it too, is that we get, we're going to be mining something for a very long time to come. So it's not like we'll be out of a job anytime too soon.
Yeah.
And I guess just when I was reflecting on that question when you were answering, I was thinking some actual things that have happened. I would never have guessed when I was at uni that I'd be on an overnight train from Moscow to some tiny little town in Russia, going to see a magnetite iron ore mine. So, there's just different experiences that you hope you might get, because I got into mining to travel, but you just never know. So, it's pretty exciting.
What are the challenges for women in the mining industry, and perhaps maybe that you have experienced in your own role?
Yeah. So I think I don't think it's anything specific to mining. I think that there's challenges with anybody working in any industry, and whether you're Perth-based or working away. But I think for me personally, it's been an interesting journey trying to balance things between my love of my career and wanting to keep working. And I have two kids, so one's 14 and one's nearly 12. So it's for me, that's probably the biggest challenge. I think I love the industry, and particularly working on operations. That's where I just am in my element. But so I guess end of last year I just changed roles to the one I'm doing now. But prior to that, for 2.5 years, I was working down in the southwest on site. And I was just travelling a lot. So probably travel is probably one of the biggest challenges. You know, in some ways travel's great, and you get to experience different places and be in different be at different sites or operations, but in another way it's quite challenging because you are, packing and moving and moving around all the time, driving in my case, or fly in, fly out as well. So before kids I did fly in, fly out for 5 years, and that was a great time to do it because I just got
Before
to...
kids.
Before kids, I didn't have too much responsibility back in Perth, and it was really good to get that experience under my belt then when I did. So straight out of uni until I had my son. So I think just challenges of life. So how do you manage catching up with all your friends when you want to see them, but you've also got work commitments to do or family commitments, and it's just one of the joys of the life that we live, busy lives we have, I think.
Yes. Okay. And Jasmine.
So, what Jade said.
Yeah.
I have a child. I have a child as well, so I can resonate with what Jade said. I think though over time, I started off my career on site. I was residential, so I never did FIFO, so I didn't have to deal with that. But I didn't have a child then either. So I think the challenges between working on site and working now in a more corporate role are different. On site, it was sort of more of you're the only girl, so people sort of treated you with a bit of suspicion at the beginning. I also felt like I was, because it was so long ago, I felt like sometimes I was the only, since I was the only female there, I was a representative for every single female ever. So if I did something bad, that meant that
all
females are crap at XYZ because Jasmine screwed up.
Oh,
so there was that kind of, but it's changed. That was 15 years ago. It's changed a lot since then. And now I guess, and this one's changed as well. But there was at more senior levels. There's definitely a lot more sort of male present, which is that's fine. That's how it is. But they came from a time where they probably had the luxury of a stay-at-home wife. Yeah. So it was a bit. It's changed a lot now, but at the beginning there was a lot more sort of. But how if we promote you into this, how are you going to handle family life at the same time? And it's kind of like, well, I have. Not everyone has this luxury, but I have a husband. He's also a parent. He can look after a child as well. It's not just going to be me who's doing schooling and parenting. There's, and not everybody's like that, but some are. So that was a challenge that I had to overcome once or twice or 3 times.
How did you?
I was straight up.
Okay. So maybe that's a really great tip, is to just sort of be more raw and authentic and not holding back what your truth is and what
Yeah, that's right. A lot of that's actually changing.
Yes.
And I don't think I would come up against that again in Australia.
Yeah.
I hope. But yeah, that's probably one of the, I don't know, have you sort of experienced that as well, where people are sort of like, can you actually do this? It's like, actually, yes, I can.
Yeah. And I think it's been an interesting year as well. So we've gone through the whole COVID experience, but I think a huge part of what it's shown the corporate world and I guess universities as well is that how much can be done remotely, or how much work can still be done online. So particularly for a lot of mining companies, you don't have to be on site all the time to be able to do the planning or the scheduling or certain jobs. You can do it remotely, and some of the bigger companies are having have big operating centres, I guess, in Perth now. So rather than having to fly everyone up to site, they can do similar work and still be in that operational atmosphere, but be just down the road from home. So we're very lucky that over time technology is helping us out with that as well.
Yeah, and also then therefore the balance for life
is a bit easier. Yeah.
Who or what inspires you? It doesn't necessarily have to be mining related as well. Just based on who you are and as women and as working professionals or mothers. Who would inspire you?
I think everyday people actually.
Okay.
Like people I work with, my own friends group. like everybody has some. Most people have something inspiring about them.
Yes, that's true.
So yeah,
not just one person or...
Yeah, that's right. You know, looking around my colleagues, you know, everyone's fighting their own battles, and you know, once you sort of build those relationships and start to understand what other people are up to and what they're dealing with, and you know, a lot of those, even the small things, can be quite inspiring. For sure.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question, and it's a tough one to answer because I immediately think, is there someone or something or and there's really not. There's just I guess it's what you, and I guess something that comes with age or you know time in a role or time doing different things. But it's sometimes I guess for me it's just making the most of every moment and every opportunity. So you know, yes, everyone has to work, everyone has to earn an income, but if you can find something you're really passionate about and that you really love doing, you know, and you're not going to love every day of it because some days are crap, right? But if you love and you understand that there's a purpose to what you're doing, I think that's a huge benefit. And I think if you're passionate about that, then it helps everyday life. And then just make the most of it. You know, we work for a purpose to then, for me, it's to travel when we can travel, and just make those human connections around us. I think is the biggest thing too. So keeping up, you know, don't get too busy with work that you lose
put all your
friends.
eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
That's right, because when you're 85, you're going to look back and be like, yes, we
Forget
got all
that.
those projects in on time.
Yeah. I met those deadlines. Yes.
Yes,
Or,
really,
you know,
it's about
or
the
is it
people
time
around
with-
you
Yeah,
and
family and friends.
your community of colleagues and friends and family and the quality of relationships that we have.
Yeah, and for me, this kind of
That's-
stuff, like inspiring students or people to get into the resources industry, is really important to me as well, because it's something I think that a lot of people either don't know about or don't understand the importance of, and I think, I think it's an awesome career to get into.
Interesting. Well, how inspiring is that? Great, thank you so much. This is a bit of a tricky question. Throwing this one in the mix. If you were the CEO of your own mining operation, what would be the first thing you would do or change?
Yeah. Okay.
Jasmine?
Yeah. If it wasn't already a thing, I would make sure that there is flexible working arrangements for all staff. Because I mean, look, there are definitely roles that you have to be there from a certain time.
Yep.
And unfortunately, with a lot of those roles, yes, maybe flexible is not going to work. But you know, a lot, probably more than that aren't flexible. You definitely can do it, and people are a lot happier when they're working under their own terms and conditions. You know, flexibility wise.
What would you say is, what is flexibility to you?
So, the opportunity to be able to work at home or take an afternoon off and catch up later. I think, depending, like I said, depending on your role. I know that with my role, I'm quite project based.
Yeah.
So I have deadlines I have to meet. So if I'm not there Monday afternoon, well, you know, big deal. I can catch up at another time just to meet the deadline. The attitude's definitely changing. That when I first started, it was sort of you work the hours that
You're
boss
given,
works.
and that's
or your or your supervisor's working, so you're still there too, which is rubbish.
flexible, more flexible.
Yeah,
working
it's not, and
conditions.
it's not like that anymore. But,
Yeah.
you know, it could probably be picked up a lot more as an incentive.
Especially with the COVID-19 stretch as well. Feeling like flexibility is something that's coming up a lot, and people are wanting more of their own time to live their own life, and I guess that is essentially rightfully ours.
It's put things in perspective a little bit.
It has, yeah. And for you then, Jade?
Yeah, so I guess I wouldn't say for the operation I work at, but I think if I did ever get the chance to be CEO, I would, for me, and I think it's probably come out in other comments I've made, but it's about the connection. So I would want to go I guess I'd want to go on a bit of a listening tour, so go to all of the operations or sites that I'm leading and just see what's going on at each of them. I think that feeling, that gut feel that you get when you're walking around and seeing people in their natural working environment is can be very powerful.
Yeah.
And I think holding kind of just listening, random selection of listening forums, so sitting with a group of people and just saying, what scares you out there?
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, what should we keep doing and what things do you think we should change? Because I think when you think about an organisational structure, still in these days it's very triangular, I guess. So you've got, the bulk of your workforce are working on the coalface, I guess, or work floor. And so, what's driving them, what's making them want to achieve better, want to get better production, get safer, whatever you want to look at. But I think engaging that would be really good. So engaging everyone across the whole business would be what I would do first.
Nice.
Oh, and making sure that there's facilities for all genders everywhere.
Underground female toilets. That would
Toilets.
be
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh my goodness.
You still don't get those.
Oh, that's tough.
Oh, yeah.
That's-
Well,
that's
toilets for everyone. I mean, you can use them, but
Yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
No, I had to clean some toilets out on the mine site I was working at, and there was a difference between the ladies and the men's.
Yeah.
No, part of the job. Wow, that sounds so nice, and you sound like a natural born leader, Jade.
Thank
both of you. Cool, so this one's about maybe providing a little bit of advice for our students who are tuning in today about what advice you might have about graduating and finding a job. What was your first job after graduating? And I know that you've briefly described your journey, but any pivotal moments within that journey that you think that prospective students and current students and postgrad students might want to know, or you feel like they benefit from knowing? So, advice about graduating.
I know in geoscience it's not part of the degree like it is for engineering, but get work experience. That is, I didn't. And I guess in saying that, I didn't find it too difficult to get a job, but when I graduated in 2005, I came out and it was boom time. Well, it was the first part of the boom, so it wasn't that difficult, but it's quite different now. So getting one up on other candidates is getting work experience, because let's face it, once you do have all this knowledge, but once you actually get on the job, you're almost useless because you haven't done anything practical.
So when you say, Jasmine, work experience, would you encourage students to get work experience while they're studying, or and what, for example, what is work experience?
So work experience is, you can either volunteer your time working. Yeah, a lot of professors have their own sort of research projects going on, and a lot of them need sort of the low-level jobs done, so even that is work experience. Look for vocation roles. Even sort of local consultancies need gopher type roles. I think even if you have to do it for free, it's worth
it. Worth sinking your teeth in there a little bit, having something to provide that hopefully puts you on top of the pile.
It even gives you a taste of because the resources industry is such a broad field. I mean, I started off in mine geology, went to projects, went to resource geology, and now I'm doing project planning. So, getting an idea of where you want to start off is quite helpful.
For sure, and I guess maybe even if you're interested in, say, hydrology, you might contact a local company or a mining company and just seeing what volunteering opportunities they have or internship programs they might have, applying for them, going to the offices, knocking on doors, doing all the things that people don't really want to do, but in turn they do provide you with valuable, meaningful experiences that help you within your career progression and finding a job, which is, I think a lot of students find it really difficult nowadays they get a degree and they've got the piece of paper, but again, the practical part of things is really, they lack. And that's, I guess, a bit scary for the
It
students.
is, because a lot of the big companies, something to BHP, Rio, etc., actually have dedicated graduate programs. So
Great.
you come
There you
on
go,
and
guys.
but you be mindful that if you graduate at the end of the year, you really should have applied by probably at April.
Okay, that's
So-
great. That's a great tip.
So apply a year before you are going to graduate. But
Great.
those types of programs, they are a little bit more lenient for you being new experience. Although a lot of to get onto those graduate programs, a lot of those people have already been on the vacation student programs, so those people already have a foot in the door. So getting the vacation work is quite important. But those, so the bigger companies, they're okay with you being, lack of experience.
Yeah.
But smaller consultancies probably are a little bit more resistant. Well, not resistant, but they don't have the resources to
Take on.
to train someone up.
Yeah.
So having that work experience, even if you've been doing, like odd jobs for some of these companies,
Yeah,
if
for
you can
sure.
show that you can log, from my experience, most geologists start off logging core.
Yes.
So if you can prove that you've already done it, that's great, because you basically can go and do a job and make money for them straight away,
Okay, there
as
you go.
opposed to months of training.
Yeah. Right on. That's great advice.
So I was lucky enough, so I was in Kalgoorlie going to school for uni. So we were, that is the best place to be at a mining school, I guess, because you're in the middle of it. So every
For sure.
summer holiday I had work.
Right.
And we had to have, I think it's 12 weeks you have to graduate as an engineer, but I had a lot more than that by the time. And it was just really to earn money. So, I was studying and working at a restaurant during term, and then on the holidays, so the summer holidays, and then often the winter break as well, I'd go and work on a mine site. And the thing is, once you start, you kind of, then you know people, and then you make those connections. And so a big one for me is networking. I think that that's a huge one. And whether you can do it now when you're at uni, you can do it at our, every different level of the industry. So there's all sorts of different companies and groups and associations that you can join, a lot of them for free, and some of them are for a minimal amount. And then, you can just look them up probably, but for me that was a really big part of, I guess, my own career growth and development all the way through. Because you do meet those networks, and it's hard at first when you start going out to different networking
For sure.
things. Not for everyone, some people love it, but for me it was hard. And then you just got to keep going, and you might want to find a buddy and say, look, let's go together, and then you try and meet someone new each time you go, and then after a while you start seeing people that you've seen at other events along the way, and then you become pretty good at it. So that's always a really interesting, I guess, piece of advice I give, is that no matter where you are, try and network, and that's in any industry really, because whenever you've got a question about something, you've got people that you can either on LinkedIn or that you can phone or email and just say, what's your suggestion for this? But for me personally, so went to uni for 5 years doing the double degree. I was really, it was really great opportunity. I got to go on a graduate program, like Jasmine was talking about, and in those days it was for Western Mining Corporation. So I was flying in and out of Mount Keith, up in the Northern Goldfields, and it was awesome because it's like a 2-year program, and when you do that you get to experience all the different parts of it. So you get to do a bit of surveying and geology, so it was good exposure in terms of understanding how the whole process works. And then I guess it just gives you that leap into then your career. And so then, and really in that 2 years you get to think, well, do I really want to do this long-term planning or short-term, or what do you prefer to do? So it gives you a bit of time, because once you get into, I guess, a role, a job, you have a certain task to do, and an expectation is that that's what you do. So it's a lot harder to then try out different things or get more exposure on what others do at that time, because you're busy doing your own job. So for me that was that was pretty awesome, and I would encourage anyone that can to get on a grad program, but not everyone can, I know.
Yeah, there's definitely limited spaces.
Yeah, and like you said, just be aware they do open early. So I think some
Get in
companies
early.
even March maybe.
Yeah.
So
Some are even September the year before.
So a year and a bit before.
A year and a bit before.
Yeah. And most companies know they have a month when they're going to do it, so you can always contact them and say what month next year are you going to be doing that round of employment.
What would you say that mining companies, just in general, are sort of looking for in their employees, like now?
Yeah. So
this age?
that's a really good question too. So one of the awesome opportunities I never thought I'd be involved in, and it was with South 32, current company. I got to go over and we have some sponsorships for, I guess, for women that are in engineering at a university over east. And we got to do to interview people to choose who do we give our sponsorship to. And it was really amazing, I guess, to see the checklist of things that they look for, right? So this would be for if you're going for a job or a scholarship or whatever it is. But it's not just your academic results, right? It's not just your grades, it's not just a degree, it's everything. I guess people now, particularly big corporations, are looking for people that have a real diverse interest and also looking at the whole person. So, what have you done in your community around you? What have you done? So whenever I talk to students, I always say if you've done any type of work or volunteering during high school or uni time, put it on your resume. Yeah, because it shows that you're
Motivated,
that
interested.
you're motivated and you're interested in the world around you. I think that's a really important part.
That's great advice.
Yeah, no, I've done something similar at other companies as well, where you interview for scholarships. And yes, academic grades, etc. was one thing, but it was definitely looking at involvement.
Yeah.
Because
Sport, music.
because I think what I'm not a HR person at all, but I think what they were looking for is that someone who can manage being able to get something done whilst being involved in something completely different. Because in a professional career, you have to do so many different things all at once.
For sure.
So you can't just focus on one thing.
Yeah, sure. Oh, that's such great advice. I hope that our students can take something from that and be motivated and confident in volunteering and getting into those community projects that you maybe otherwise wouldn't have. I think maybe even confidence as well, like contacting those LinkedIn contacts, even if you don't know them, maybe they might receive an email from you and maybe they might respond and help, and doing that as many times as you can to receive an answer to maybe, at least that's what I did.
Yeah.
I sort of just tried to
Tenacity.
find as many people that I could talk to that would just see me for me, because it's all well and good providing a CV by the electronic platforms, but there are souls and people behind the faces and the paper. Yeah. Cool. A really important question for students who have just graduated who might be looking for that job and they receive an interview and they get awarded into that round. And what interview advice do you have for people who are interested in going into the mining industry?
Sounds lame, but research the company.
Research the company.
Also another thing, and especially for getting into things like graduate programs, psychometric testing is a really big thing.
What is psychometric testing?
Annoyingly, it
Yes.
is a very big
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it is. For our viewers.
Yeah, so they're sort of like timed exams, really, aren't they? And they test you in different. I actually had to do one to get the role that I'm doing now.
Wow.
I hadn't done one for
Many years.
15 years, yeah.
Wow. That's really important information to know.
So yeah, they do keep doing them. So usually there's different sort of areas that they test. They ask. It's not so much based on personality anymore. I think there's been more sort of.
What is it based on?
it's like unfortunately they have like a mathematics
Yes.
sections, and it's all
Problem
timed.
solving,
It's,
isn't it?
it's problem
Yeah.
solving, and it's being able to really quickly read through sort of information. They'll give you a timed thing where you can read a blurb, and then they'll ask you some quick fire questions about it. So this is all usually
Yeah.
done on computer, etc.
Yeah.
Pattern recognition. So they're trying to see how your mind works and
Wow.
like what kind of fit you'll be into the team.
For
I know
sure.
they're really scary, but you can practice them for free on the internet.
Fantastic.
So,
And
so if you don't know what they are, definitely look it up, and you don't have to subscribe to any company. You can just use a free trial for lots of different companies until you get good at it. Because
awesome.
it is definitely something you can practice it, and a lot of them
Fantastic.
actually teach you, this was the type of thing you missed out on. So
Great, that is
Yeah.
such great advice. So psychometric testing, here you go, guys, and it's still
Yeah.
being used even now
Yes.
with
a lot
Within a
of people,
company,
yeah,
within a company.
a lot of people think it's pseudoscience, whether you do or not. Unfortunately, they still do them. So
okay.
yeah, I think a lot of the critical thinking ones, the ones where you have to read through something really quickly or look at a whole lot of graphs, and then they'll ask you, which is the best option based on such and such percentage. Those kind of things are relevant. But
Yeah,
there's a
for
lot
sure.
Of, yeah,
Other stuff
and
that-
those things you can practice. Those
Yeah.
are skills that you learn.
Mm.
But a lot of the personality things are, I guess,
A little bit hit and miss.
hit and miss.
For sure. How do you practice for your personality?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how about you, Jade? Do you have any interview advice for our viewers?
Yeah, I think one thing that is top of mind to remember is that pretty much everybody I know is always nervous going to an interview. So
For sure.
it doesn't matter if you've done 50 of them or if it's your first one. I think you don't really ever know what the questions are going to be. And for me, I like to prepare, so I try and think of my own questions or think of questions I've done previously in an interview. And you can even, again, look it up online and see what are some questions that might be asked. And so prepare, but also, I guess, be aware that you have to kind of flex your answers depending on what the questions might be. But that's a really big one for me. So just knowing everyone's going to get nervous, acknowledge that. So I guess be okay with that feeling, and you can even say it. Go in and say, look, I'm really nervous, because then once you say it and you share it, it often makes it a bit easier. And the people interviewing you know that you're nervous too. So,
For sure.
So they're trying to make you as more comfortable as possible. But even now, we're nervous doing this, right? So it doesn't really matter what you're doing.
as time goes on, though, doesn't it?
Can do, yeah, it can do.
Everyone's.
Yeah, that's right.
Have there been any questions in an interview that you didn't expect they would ask that maybe you would like to share, or maybe you can't remember, or in your case, Jasmine, your recent role?
Psychometric testing.
The psychometric
Yeah.
testing, there you go. That's, wow.
Well, I knew that I had to do it.
Yeah, but it's still a shocking...
It is, it is. Takes a good chunk of time to it.
Yeah, okay, that's great.
Of testing.
Yeah.
Well, that's usually after the interview. So
That's
usually,
after the first interview,
Yeah.
so you know you have to do it.
usually you do the interview first, and then that would be the next step. I think some interesting style of questions that I've come across in the last few years are things like, give us an example of when you've shown safety initiative, or so it's a good idea, I think, before you as part of your preparation, to really sit down and come up with some examples. And it doesn't, obviously for first-time jobs, it's not going to be what have you done at a previous role. It's more if you've been in a sporting team or in any kind of group environment at work or something. If you work, I used to work at KFC, so as an example, if you've had someone that's difficult to work with, how have you done that? Those kind of things. So if you come up with a few different
examples and scenarios.
Yeah, a few different scenarios that you've experienced, and then you can usually use them for multiple
For sure.
styles of questions. So that's really helpful.
I write stuff like that down in a Word document on my Google Drive.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I've got the worst memory.
Oh,
Yes. So then you've got it there.
Lindsay's just
Yeah.
there. There's a person there.
And the other thing is just be vulnerable about it. If you don't know an answer, you can say, "Oh, look, I didn't even think about that as a question."
And
so
that's okay, because we're totally just human.
Yeah,
and,
that's right.
Yeah, we
there's
don't
strength
always,
in that.
Absolutely, being vulnerable and authentic
And honest.
and
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And this is the last question, guys. I'm going to wrap up here. We've had a really lovely early afternoon, or early morning, late morning, early afternoon. Somewhere in the world it's the sun shining, or not. If you could go back 10 years and give your now self some advice, what would that be? And it doesn't even necessarily have to be about mining, but it can be. Your mining.
Yeah. It's funny, when I think about that question, I don't know if you can tell yourself any advice when you're younger, because I think you're not really going to listen to it anyway. You're going to go and experience what you want to experience. But I think for me, it's really, it's very much what I've done is by taking the opportunities when you have something, and it may not feel like the right thing to do at the time, but often you're given an opportunity for a reason. So it's worth exploring it and seeing what that might bring and how that might make your journey richer. And really, as I've said before, it's making those connections and just enjoying the ride. It's pretty exciting. I think that's all I'd give myself in terms of tips.
Enjoy the ride.
I think, and I even hate myself for saying this because it sounds so naff, but I would probably tell myself to have a bit more of a plan of what I want to do. Like I probably didn't have an idea of where I wanted to end up until about 5 years ago.
Is this your professional or your personal?
Professional.
Okay.
I guess personal too. But having an idea of where I wanted to get in my career and stepping out how I'm going to get there. I sort of, everything was on a woman in prayer up until then, and I have been very lucky with the opportunities that I've been offered, and that's come down to mainly, I guess, the networking that I have done, and it's a really good idea once you get into a professional career to get, you can almost call them like a sponsor, someone who's higher up in the company who vouches for you, who believes in you, and getting, because, at the end of the day, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That is a very unfortunate comment.
And what you know, I believe,
it
as
is
well.
what you know as well, because,
you wouldn't have got
there, but having someone who can sort of help guide you along. So I had that, but I didn't really have my own plan of what I wanted to do. So I always had some people supporting me, helping me along, but I didn't have my own plan, and I don't think I would have got where I am now unless I had sort of sat down when I had my little girl, and sort of sat down and I was like, right, things have definitely changed now, so I'm going to have to step up where I want to get and how I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and so many things in life change along the way. It's almost like, when I think about planning even for my own life, I think, I've got a vision, but you're right, planning is important because those integral steps help build towards the master plan, essentially, or a dream profession even, and finding the mentors that will support you along the way, that advocate for you and vouch for you and give you their blessings. And I've had very lucky, a really lovely lady that's been my mentor, and she has seen me to a successful career, and that was working at Murdoch as an undergrad, and then doing the internship here, and then getting a job here, and then now I'm here still, and it was because of her, and I still don't have a plan.
But that's okay too. Yeah, I think the other thing is don't be so hard on yourself. If I had to go back, I'd tell myself, don't be so hard on yourself because things happen sometimes. So we didn't get to it, but I was made redundant, and so there's different things that happen, but you can grow so much from those experiences too. So you just got to look on the positive side of things. I know that sounds a little bit cliche as well, but it really is. You look at, well, this has happened. I can't really control what's happening now, but I can control how I react to that and what you learn out of it. So
it's beautiful. It's great. Yeah. Great advice. Right. Cool. Well, that wraps it up for today's session. Thanks so much for anyone who tuned in. Thank you, Jasmine and Jade, for coming down and contributing their time. We really enjoyed connecting with you both, and thank you for just being yourself, and we appreciate your honesty and the authenticity that you bring to students, because I think we need that now more than ever. So thanks again, everyone. Thank you to Lindsay for managing the digital recording and all of that. And if you have any questions for Jade and Jasmine, there are actually, you can go onto the Facebook page and ask them any questions that you like. We can obviously work at communicating those questions to them, and maybe we might even, if you had any advice or links or anything that you would like to provide for our students, that would be great. It doesn't matter if you don't, but there's always the Facebook live event open there, so if you feel like going, hey, these are great resources that I used when I was looking for a job, feel free to contribute that to the event page. And we look forward to the next industry chat session on Facebook Live. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for
See
having
you,
us.
everyone.